Thank you, Presiding Officer. I wish to move and speak to Amendment 198 and refer to my register of interest, as I am a member of the Royal Town Planning Institute. At stage 2, I argued very strongly that planning has a unique role in protecting and improving public health, and I presented a number of ideas to maximise the potential of this planning bill to make a real difference. At stage 2, I successfully amended the bill to allow an assessment of the likely health effects of national or major developments to be considered before planning permission is granted. This is a requirement on Scottish ministers to make regulations, and my Amendment 198 is an add-on to strengthen this. 198 sets out what the regulation should take account of. So I'll run through these as briefly as I can, but I just want to stress that this amendment is about making sure that public health is central to the planning system. And it's about adding this requirement on major developments and national developments. We're not talking about very small scale or household applications. So we're talking about things like the consideration of cycling and walking routes, access to green space and play and recreation facilities. And I'm moving this because the health of people in Scotland must be at the forefront when planning our communities. I think we would all agree that this has to include physical and mental health, and doing this in a way that we really try and tackle health inequalities. So the assessment, what would it do? It would look at things like infrastructure provision, including housing quality. I think all colleagues will know from their own casework that issues of poor quality housing, where we see people living in cold or hard to heat homes, homes that are damp or cramped or have little outdoor space, can have a negative impact on a person's health. Respiratory problems is something that comes up quite a lot. So this needs to be taken account in large-scale developments. On transportation, the requirement would be to look at active travel, public transport provision and car dependency. Members will recognise the benefits of active travel, go far beyond just positive physical impact. Walking and cycling is good for our mental health, is better for the environment and reduces transport costs. Members might be wondering why we need to have Amendment 198. I would say it's because we can't take for granted that these provisions are being properly addressed under the current system. Last year, Scottish Housing News covered a report entitled Progress on Low-Car Neighbourhoods in Scotland, and it found that housing developers are locking people into unhealthy and expensive car dependency by failing to provide infrastructure or enable access to healthier travel options, including walking, cycling or car sharing. This has been an issue that came up a lot in stage 2, and I know is important to members. Access to healthcare. When I was working as a planner, when we talked about infrastructure, it was often about drainage and thinking about roads, not so much about healthcare. But I know from speaking to colleagues across the chamber that there's increasingly, where new housing is being added on, people are finding that they can't get GP appointments and GPs are closing waiting lists. And that's why, when we discussed it yesterday, that consultation with the NHS and the Chief Medical Officer is really important, because we're not joining up the system. So the provision is about healthcare services, looking at the opportunities we need in communities. So when we talk about building units, as house builders do, or building houses, actually we need to build communities. So it's about how do we build in strong, resilient, cohesive communities where we can bring people together and create the opportunities for participation, so that we don't see the rise in social isolation and loneliness that we are seeing. Another issue that came up in terms of healthcare at stage 2, and I know some colleagues thought this is not really for the planning system to consider in great detail, but access to public toilets, and I know many members again raised that issue. So because of poor and limited access to public toilets, with people in Scotland who have disabilities, who are not able to get out and participate in our communities, and there's particular issues around women and for older people. So again, we want all of that looked at. The regulation also looks at green space and children's play areas. We know that green space has a positive impact on mental health and well-being, and children's play is vital for their development and well-being. So really it's about putting these things into the heart of planning decision making. We must give people the right opportunities to live a healthy lifestyle, and that includes the choice to cycle, to walk, to access green space and play and be active in their community. Planning has the power to do that. Amendment 198 has the potential to positively contribute to public health and improve the health and well-being of all of our communities.